Welcome to Coinology The Podcast.
You ain't getting no money if you constantly worried about what everybody else got to say. If you constantly got your eyes on what everybody else doing, you ain't getting no money. When it comes down to closing a deal, I get it done. Every single one. I'm the certified deal closer.
Welcome to Coinology The Podcast. Hey. Welcome to another episode of Coinology Season 4. And I have none other than Miss Keisha Green, last name Agyapong, sitting here with me. Now, this is an interview that has been in the making for at least 4 seasons, right? Because I remember you being on our list of potential clients Season 1. And for some reason, we couldn't make it happen. In Season 2, I think you were gone. And Season 3, you were in Africa. Now we're finally here in Season 4. But I knew that I needed to have this conversation with you. Because when I first started and thought about coinology and the meaning, because I talked to you about the meaning, W.E.B. Du Bois, and the talented 10th. As I thought about that, some of the names and faces that came across my mind as who do I consider as a talented 10th? Who are those that I would have in front of me? Who has the mindset of resilience and success? And of course, your picture, your face was one of the very few that actually motivated me to start Coinology. So for us to be sitting here today, it's a 360. So I'm so excited, and I'm excited for the audience because they're about to get a treat.
Yes, I'm excited, and I want to say thank you, for thinking of me, for keeping a space for me. Like you said, I wasn't always available, but keeping that space for me and for today is going to be the right time for the conversation to come forth, and I believe that the audience will be blessed.
Yeah, because, I think the conversation we would have had 4 years ago wouldn't be the same conversation that we can have today.
Absolutely not.
And I know that the conversation that we're going to have today is definitely, the conversation 4 years ago would have blessed the people. But today, we're at a whole different place. And this is an opportunity for you and I to catch up because we haven't had an opportunity to really catch up and get into how have you been and everything. Most people may think they know the story about Keisha Green, the legless diva, right? You've made national headlines. You've appeared on Steve Harvey. You've been on almost every major outlet. But do they really know you? And today we're going to go a little bit deeper to make sure that they really get to see a side of Keisha that they just don't know.
I'm excited. I'm excited for you to go into those areas that, maybe have been looked over because so many people are so often focused on how I became a legless diva. Mm-hmm. But, there's so many things that gave me the strength to be that diva when that situation came before that.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about that. And for those who don't know what we're saying, when we say legless diva, Keisha Green actually she's
bilateral
amputee. So what that means is that both of her legs have been severed.
Yes.
At a certain part of her. So she still has the upper part of her legs and the upper part of the movement of her body. But the body, you probably can't tell today because she has pants on. Yeah. But you weren't born this way.
No. So I'm a bilateral, one above the knee and one below the knee. So my right side is below the knee and the left side is above the knee. This actually took place 11 years. Going to be actually coming up my 12th year anniversary, August the 23rd.
And one of the things I noticed about you is that you actually celebrate your anniversary.
Yeah.
So that's a total shift in mind. And so this is one of the reasons when I say mindset, coinology leaders, she celebrates this day in which she lost her legs versus grieve them.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. But before we get there, let's go back and let's talk about Keisha Green. Who is Keisha? Where did you come from? What type of family? Give us a little bit about your upbringing.
Okay. So I am the fourth born of 5 children. So my mom had 3 boys, 2 girls. I'm from Syracuse, New York, the number 8 poverty city. I didn't come from a silver spoon. What I can tell you is I came from a single parent home. My mom always worked 2 jobs. We were considered to be a part of the middle class. And I don't know if many of you know what it's like for your parents to be working, but there still not be enough. You know that bracket where you can go apply for food stamps, but they say you make too much, but the refrigerator still is
But would
not.
they consider that middle class? If you can go and apply for food stamps, I don't think that's considered middle class.
But no, when we would apply for food stamps, they wouldn't give them to us.
Okay.
They would say my mom made too much. So we always lived in a big house.
Okay.
You know, I've never lived in an apartment that I can remember.
Okay.
So, you know, we were considered to be doing all right.
Okay.
You know, my mom worked hard. I was the oldest girl, so I was the one who did the cooking and things while my mom was working.
When did you learn how to cook?
9.
9.
Yeah.
And I have a big 16-year-old in my house. Okay, we're going to have to talk about that a little bit later. But 9 years old, you knew how to cook a full meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am confident today because I've had this conversation with my mother that I've been an adult since I was 9 years old.
Now, do you feel as if that was forced upon you to be an adult at 9? Or is it something that you felt was just a natural progression?
I felt, though, it was a space that there was no one else that was going to take it other than me. You know, I had 3 older brothers, but, you know, the way we were raised back then, the women were the ones who did the cooking and the cleaning and things like that. So I was the one to take up that space. I was the one cooking and doing all those things. And, you know, looking back over it now with the wisdom, right, and the mindset that I have, I would absolutely say it was a forced position and that I didn't have a childhood.
Okay, so let's go back to the childhood piece. Did you feel like you didn't have a childhood because mom worked a lot, or do you feel like life just happened so fast? Or is it just the inner city? What is it that you think robbed you of your childhood?
I think life just happening fast. You know, I don't think my mom had the time to think about those small things like putting together birthday parties and being home to even have friends, you know, over staying the night. It's like there's no parent home. You know, what they call a
latchkey.
A latchkey kid. You know, you come in from school and you open the door, you go inside, you don't open it for nobody else that knock on it.
Better not.
And that's it.
So, okay, at 9 years old, you were taking on that type of responsibility. Yeah. I remember I was a latchkey kid, too. I think in first grade. But, you know, I grew up in a 2-parent household. My mom and dad were both there, but both of my parents worked.
Okay.
And so when I got out of school, I had to go. I had the little key around my neck, tucked the little shoestring out, opened the door, and like you said, locked it. I remember one time it was a man in the neighborhood that was trying to chase me, wanted to abduct me, and I ran and got in the house and locked. But I stood by the door with a machete, waiting for my brother, my brother who passed on, Jeremy, to get off the bus because I said, "Oh, you're not gonna do this to him, right?" So that's a whole nother story. But as a kid, you got to think about it. As a kid, the type of responsibility you have as a latchkey kid, you got to be able to take care of yourself and make sure that you are okay.
Yeah, you got to be strong. But also, me being a mother, I realized that you trust your strongest children with more responsibility than those that you know aren't strong. So when I look back on it today, I'm like, my mom always knew that I was strong because the things that she trusted me to do, she knew I would get them done.
So you've always had that personality that you have today, the take charge.
Yeah.
Trust in Keisha. You know, I have too, and I will tell you sometimes you get tired of being that one who had to make the decision and to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Okay, so 9 years old, and then you became a mother, right? What age did you have?
15, I was pregnant.
15,
I was pregnant. You know, I was growing up in the church, Pentecostal apostolic, no pants, no makeup. I remember we used to put pants in our book bag and take them to school and wear them. And listen, wow. you know, my mom, she always did the best she could. She's always taught us right. One thing is, I believe that I know I got from my mother is very integral. She's a very honest woman. And so that's something that I really inherited from her and my grandmother. Very integral, very honest, and just trustworthy women. And to see the things that would come forth that you wouldn't think would happen, right? My mom probably never thought that I would be 15, I would be pregnant. And I remember my mom was going to slap me one day. And no, she did slap me. And she slapped me so hard, my back was turned to her. And she slapped me so hard, I turned around and I went like this. Ooh. Like, I didn't know she was going to smack me. On that day, I moved out.
Yeah, you probably had to go. You were 15. So, Keisha, when you found out you were pregnant at 15 years old, right, did you immediately tell your mom? Was it a secret? What were you thinking at 15?
That day when I moved out, I wasn't pregnant. She didn't slap me because I was pregnant.
Okay, so you moved out before you got pregnant.
Yes.
And you got pregnant as a result of being out.
Yes.
Okay. So you then, when you moved out, did you move in with your boyfriend or something, or?
I moved in with my cousin.
Okay.
My cousin, and she lived with her grandparents, but she was like free to, do whatever she wanted to do. So I moved in with them. They kind of lived like in a area where like everybody was like out and everything, but it was an area I also grew up in, but we were no longer living there at that time. But at one time I lived the street over from there, so I knew the area very well. And so I remember the story of finding out I was pregnant, and you had to be there to believe this. My cousin was dating a girl, and they were wanting to get pregnant. So we went to this place, it was called the health center. It was like the local clinic type of place. And she was going to take a pregnancy test. And so she took it. I promise you, I was playing around. I said, I'm going to take one too. I was pregnant and she wasn't.
And you had no idea?
No idea.
Okay, so the baby father, were y'all in a long-term relationship, or?
He was older than me.
He was?
Older than me.
R. Kelly older, or just, because back in the day, it was nothing to have the 20-something-year-old hanging out at the high school with their souped-up BMW or Saabs back then, waiting on the young girls. So, and it was not like today, everybody is in an uproar. The same ones that are in an uproar were the same ones particularly participating, because Nia Long talked about that too when she was about 14 and how she had an older boyfriend. So was he R. Kelly older or just
20s? 7 or 8 years older than me, I believe.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And let's just say, I didn't know what to do. I'm 15 years old. I'm joking around. I find out I'm pregnant. I come and I tell my cousin. But like I said, she been running the street. She like, listen, don't tell nobody, I'm going to take you. I was like thinking to myself, like, no, remember, I'm just leaving my mother's house from wearing no pants, not being able to do nothing. Like, the seed is planted in me. I'm like, I can't do that. I remember running to the payphone to call my mom. And one of my brother's friends see me. He was like, yo, why are you crying? What's up? And I was like, I'm pregnant. And I called my mom and I told her I was pregnant.
How did she handle that?
She said, I don't know what you thinking, but you're going to have this baby and you're going to take care of it.
Did it ever cross your mind not to have the baby?
Never.
Never crossed your mind?
Never.
So at that time, your mom welcomed you back home?
Yeah.
Okay, so you then returned home, still in school at this point?
Yep.
Okay. And then how old were you when you had your second child?
19.
Okay, so in between the time you had your first child and moved back home, you then leave high school. Yeah. In between it. So what age did you leave school?
All right, so we got to really slow down.
Okay.
Because from the one child to the next, it was so much that took place.
Okay.
So by the time my son was 3 months, although my mom welcomed me back home, by the time my son was 3 months, I was 16, she got me my own apartment.
Oh, okay. So at that point, she probably was saying 2 grown women can't live under the same roof.
Yeah, that's a horrible phrase that is given in the black family home.
Do you don't agree with that?
I don't.
So do you feel like you should have been made to stay home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Why do
Two
you
grown people supposed to live in the same house. Aren't you and your husband grown?
Oh, I agree. But they say that women, you get to a certain age. It's unfortunate, but it's something that I think we are taught in our community, that once a girl reaches a certain age, she and the mom are going to butt heads. It's a battle of the wits. Who's going to be the queen of the queendom? And you hear about that a lot. And it's actually a topic that we don't talk enough about, is some of the dysfunction in the relationships between mothers and daughters.
Okay, you asking the questions, but can I ask you one?
Go ahead.
All right. So if at 9 years old I'm grown enough to take care of your kids in your house, why at 16 I'm not grown enough to take care of my own kid in your house?
Well, why did she ask you to leave? What was the reason behind it?
Actually, she was like, she's going to move to a smaller place. And she's just going to take her and my sister. So me and my brother had to leave.
So was it a financial burden? What do you feel like it was, the noise, the sound? Do you feel, what is the reason behind why she said you needed to go?
I will have to ask her that today, but she probably was just, I think financially she couldn't do it. Maybe even overwhelmed, just tired, feeling like, okay, you got a baby. My brother's getting ready to be 18. I've just got this one kid I need to be looking after.
Do you feel any type of year-long resentment?
Not anymore.
But you did?
Yeah, up until I was about 22.
Did you feel as if you were abandoned?
Absolutely.
And discarded?
Yeah.
One of the things I think, and especially now you being a prophetess, I'm sure you probably see some of the challenges between African-American women and their daughters. And I don't think it's talked about enough. I think that's one of the reasons why so many women struggle in relationships with other women. It's, this competitive season. Everything is a competition, because many of these women felt that they were competing with their own mother. I remember being young, and a girlfriend of mine bragged about, when we were young, that she was messing with her mom's boyfriend.
Wow.
Not knowing now that we're grown that you were being molested.
Yeah.
Okay? You were being molested. But not only beyond the molestation, but the fact that, and it was other girls, I'm messing with my aunt's man, and beyond the molestation, but the fact that you thought it was okay to compete with your mother or your aunt or your sister or your cousin, it started in the home, and many times we don't realize why it's still an ongoing issue with women in relationships.
See, me, I don't have that spirit of competitiveness, and actually it's something that really emotionally, when I see if a woman does it to me, I've seen myself cry when people I consider friends compete with me, and I start to pick it up in my spirit. I'll be crying and I'll be like, why are you competing with me? Like, I want to see you win. I want the best for you. I don't have the spirit of compete, but I will abandon you before you abandon me.
It's the abandonment, though.
Yeah.
Right? I saw you post something the other day about, I can't remember exactly what the words were, but you are struggling with that spirit of discarding.
Yeah.
Discarding. And that goes all the way back to when you were 16 years old and you felt like you were being discarded. So you said to yourself, I will beat you to the punch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If I think that you've already decided that you aren't going to be loyal to me through your actions, if I pick up on it in my spirit as the prophetess, I am going to easily let you go, because I have learned to live life without people. And I'm still learning to live life with being able to forgive people.
So let's go back to the father. Baby one. Did you guys stay together?
Yeah. No, we didn't stay together.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say we were like going together. He was like chasing after me. Like, this a young girl, she coming from school. Like, he used to be on this block where I used to get off the bus at, and he would follow me and talk to me and all of these things. And I can't even say we were in a relationship, but when I think about him, and if I was my mother, I would have put him in jail.
Did your mom know?
Like, who?
Because you weren't even living at home then, right?
Yeah, but He was from the area where I was living at home though. Yeah. So I would even say that maybe I was pregnant before I left home and I didn't even know.
And you just didn't know. You know, the other thing too, Keisha, you may not have known, but when the mama knew. Because, you know, many times moms can see things.
Well, you know, another thing is once kids start having sex, they start acting different. They start acting grown.
Well, he was your first?
Right.
So he was your first. Okay. So, and then back at that time, too, you got to think, as far as putting people in jail, remember, it was accepted that these older men and some of these parents even wanted you to date older guys for the financial stability and what it would bring, especially if he was out on the streets.
So I would say this, right? He was my first, but I also got pregnant the first time I had sex. I had only had sex one time. Wow. Yeah.
So you're pregnant, you have the baby, you guys are not in a relationship, and you are immediately positioned to take on your baby on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. So then mom says, Keisha, you and the baby have to go. And then you're out on your own at 16. So at that point, are you still in school?
I'm still in school. She gets me this apartment. It's an efficiency. So for those of you that don't know what an efficiency is, it's one room. It basically has the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom, everything is there. My bedroom was a little bit separated, but it was basically considered an efficiency, and it was in the hood. It was scary. It had bars on the window.
Is that the house?
You ever see me post it?
You post, but say that's the one I've seen you post before, where you'll show your before and where you at. Okay, so that was it. All right, so you lived there. And then when did you decide to leave school during that piece?
Okay, so my brother, remember I told you he moved out too? My brother moved in, forgive me. He moved in with an older lady. She has 7 kids.
7.
She has 7 kids, and she would watch my son for me. So my son had asthma. It was this one day I remember catching a bus in the snow. Catching a bus, take him to her house, and I got to the door. She said, your brother didn't tell you? I was like, tell me what? She's like, I can't watch the baby no more. And I was like, oh. I just grabbed him and I turned around and I left. I cried all the way back to the bus stop.
Abandonment. And no reason. Any reason?
Nope.
To this day, do you know why?
Nope.
Okay.
And I've seen her since I've been grown. She actually brought me to speak at one of her events.
Do you think that she was going through something with your brother and you don't know?
Man, anybody with 7 kids is always going through something.
Right. So you cried all the way back to the bus with the baby. And is that the day that you said, I can't go back?
Yep.
Okay. So what grade was that?
That was 12th grade.
So that's even more painful.
Yeah.
Being as far along as you were and then having to say,
it was January of my
January.
Year.
So you only had a few more months.
Yeah.
Nobody ever came and said, Keisha Green, where are you? See, we didn't have truancy back then, right?
No. You know, I even remember being in school and the teacher would be like saying stuff to me, and I'm going to call your parents. I'll be like, that's my phone number. Wait till I get home, though, so I can answer.
Ooh. So you always had that mouth. You always had that mouth.
Yeah. It was like, I knew I was in charge of me. My dad was in prison. We skipped past that part. My dad was in prison, so my dad did come home, though, when I was pregnant.
Okay.
The
first baby.
The first baby.
Okay.
And my dad must have heard, so we wasn't writing or talking on the phone or anything. My dad must have heard that I was pregnant when he was in jail. Because one day I'm standing out in front of this restaurant, and I see this man across the street walking and skipping and happy. I said, oh, that man's so happy. It was my dad. And I said, Dad. And I was so happy to see him. You know what he did? He walked across the street and he zipped down my jacket and he said, what's this? And I said, it's a baby. He was so disappointed.
How did you feel when you saw the disappointment in his eyes?
I felt disappointed because he was disappointed, but that wasn't what I needed from him in that moment.
What did you need?
I probably needed him to make me feel safe.
You didn't feel safe at that point. And at that point, you also still felt abandoned. So you felt abandoned by mom, and you didn't feel as if you were protected by dad.
Yeah, I knew he was disappointed, so I didn't know if because he was so disappointed that maybe he would just keep going and just abandon me because he was so disappointed. No, he didn't.
Okay. So Dad sees you. We're going to, if someone can grab a napkin or a tissue for Keisha, we're going to continue to go through the interview. So Dad sees you. You are now still experiencing the emotions around the disappointment. How are you feeling through all of this? At 15, are you scared? Are you disappointed? What are you thinking about yourself?
Well, I'm feeling scared because I don't really know what it looks like. But at the same token, I don't know if I would say scared because, again, I've already been taking care of my mom's kids. You know, I've already know what this parenting thing looks like in my eyes. I was babysitting for my aunties and all of that, but not knowing what life was going to be for me going forward.
What did you want to be? Did you ever say, when you were a little girl, before life hit, before you became a teenage mom, when you were sitting in Syracuse in your middle-class home, 9 years old, when you're making dinner for your brothers, what did you envision that you would be when you grow up?
I used to say I wanted to be a pediatric nurse.
Okay.
Yep, I used to say I wanted to be a pediatric nurse. And when going to high school, though, I never remember saying, like, I wanted to be anything.
Did you even think that in high school that was even a possibility? Because, you know, at certain points when we're young, we have dreams of grandiose. And then somewhere in between, our dreams become expelled.
Yeah, the reality of your environment.
And how many other pediatric nurses did you see in your neighborhood?
None.
The thing about it is the fact that you even dreamed to be a pediatric nurse was great, because I don't even think that even crossed my mind, because I had no exposure to that. That children need exposure to know what to dream for, right? So 15, scared, well, not necessarily scared, but confused, alone, feeling abandoned, and feeling unsafe. Having to leave school in the 12th grade. So again, you're telling yourself, well,
that's it.
That's just it. That's life. Is that when you decided to enter into the streets? I know, you know, one thing people have to know, Keisha is a real one, right? She's a real one. And so, like you said, a lot of the guys that you dated were, you know, drug dealers, okay? And you weren't just that pretty girl sitting back. You were actually helping them prepare, package, and so forth,
I
right?
tell people I'm from outside.
Okay.
You know?
Well, tell them what outside means, Keisha.
I'm from outside. I'm from the streets. Like, you know, the real life. Not this neighborhood thing they got going on now, but like the real streets, seeing people that I know get killed, you know, seeing people being robbed. Like, I was holding guns for my brother since I was like 11. He used to come home, he used to say, put this up. And if mommy find it, you know she gonna whoop you. And so, like, the streets was what I knew. So when I was 16 and my mom moved me into that apartment.
How did she know you was going to be able... Did she know that you was in the streets then?
No, I wasn't. But the thing is, I wasn't in the streets then.
So how did she know you were going to be able to take care of it? Section 8 or something?
It was a subsidized apartment, so the rent was $75 a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, the rent was $75 a month. And there was this guy that used to be hanging out by my auntie house. He liked me. But he was so kind. He was in the streets too, but he was a different kind of street dude. Like, he was kind of like pretty. Like, you would have never thought he was selling drugs. He just had like a different way he moved. And he came to me and said, listen, I really like you. He said, I want you to stay in school. Don't drop out of school. I'm going to always make sure you have everything you need. He didn't even live where I lived. He lived like an hour and a half away. He would come and take me shopping, buy me things I needed for school and everything. All the time. And so anything I needed, he made sure I had it. So when I made the choice to go outside for myself, it's just because I didn't want to wait on anybody else. So speeding it up, once I stopped going to the school, when the lady couldn't watch my son anymore, It was January. Income tax time. My brother had this other girl he was dating, and she was like, let me claim your son. I let her claim my son. I bought a pack and never went back.
So you weren't just a girlfriend. You actually had your own organization.
Yeah, I was doing my own thing. I wasn't being no worker.
Okay, so because you just one thing you always said. You said you weren't a worker. So you started your own organization.
Yeah, I started doing my own thing.
So how large did your organization?
I was making money. I remember I had this diaper bag in my room, and every day I would come home and I would roll up, like, it was the way I used to roll up $1,000, and I would put a rubber band around it, and I had money. Now, don't get me wrong, I had this high school boyfriend too, though, that I was going with when I got pregnant. He even knew I was having sex. He was so embarrassed when I was pregnant, but we still was friends. But I couldn't really like him because he wasn't in the streets, and I was getting money for real. Like, and all the girls I was going to school with, like the young girls, they used to want to come over to my house and hang out. Like, you got your own place. I used to get them to watch my son.
And back then, cooking and everything else,
I wasn't cooking.
Okay, you wasn't cooking.
I wasn't cooking. I was cooking, but I wasn't
cooking food, okay?
Listen, I used to let them stay at my house, but they would be watching my son so I can go outside. And I would go outside and I was getting money. And then I would say I was doing that way, but I was braiding here too. Okay. I could braid here too.
Always been an entrepreneur in mind, right? You just always knew you had to be a boss. You just didn't know any other way, right? So you were, at this point, leading your own organization.
Yeah.
Still a mom of one at that point, getting money, but you're still living in this efficiency. I ask that question, like, drug dealers make so much money. Why is it that some still decide to stay in an impoverished area? Is it still the mind that says, I can't?
I believe it's the mindset, but also, like, it depends on, like, how busy you are. If you really running them streets, like, you just coming in there to sleep, get dressed, and go back outside.
But what you doing with the money? You just keep stacking.
You're just stacking it.
You're just stacking it, but stacking it for the feds to come and get it. And, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Because you never really had an opportunity to really enjoy it.
But you buying stuff, like you buying things that, I'm that young, I'm 16, so I'm buying things, like I'm buying velvet Remy. That was the hair back then. The velvet Remy. And I'm buying sneakers and all those types of things.
But taking it back to the efficiency. Draped down in the MCM, Gucci down, sneakers down, velvet Remy. But going back to the efficiency, our mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had all kind of mice there. They was every color.
Everything.
Yeah.
So then the 19 comes, right? At that point, you are running a major organization.
Yeah, I'm doing my own thing.
Right. And so at that point, you feel grown.
Oh, I am grown. I'm not feeling grown. I'm grown.
Grown, right? Mom knows that you're out in the street like that?
I'm sure she know I'm doing something.
Because she probably wondering where this money coming from, right?
Yeah, I'm sure she know I'm doing something. But my brothers was outside before me, so.
So they knew?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mom never said, Keisha, where is this money coming from?
No, she never talked to me, like, about where I was getting money from or, like, things I was doing. No, she never came to me and had those type of conversations.
In your mind, was there a fear at all about death, jail? Those things never crossed your mind?
No, but listen, I did go to jail.
Okay. After the first or the second baby?
After the first one.
Okay.
I was in jail 2 weeks before my son's first birthday. Because I did move from the efficiency. I did. And I moved closer to where I was getting money at because I used to have to, catch the taxi and everything over there. So I moved closer. And so now the house is the spot. We selling it right from the door. And so they raided the house.
So you guys didn't even try. At that point, you get so comfortable. They allow you to get so comfortable that you don't even think about the fact that they are watching me.
Yeah.
So you never realize or ever think about in somebody's police station, on a board, there's a picture of Keisha Green. You know that actually probably happened if they raided you.
Yeah.
Your picture was on the board.
Like, I never even, like, what you saying right now, like, I never even took the time to, like, envision that. But just to think about that, I think everything be moving so fast when you out there. Time be moving fast, the money be moving fast. Everything is happening so fast. And when they kick that door in,
you were completely surprised.
yeah.
See, my cousin, he was one of the top kingpins in the Virginia, D.C., Maryland area. And before they raided him and got him on kingpin charges, he knew.
Yeah.
Because at that point, he had someone on the inside at the police that was telling them, they coming.
Yeah.
They coming. They come. And we would ask, we would beg, why don't you stop doing? But the money becomes so plentiful.
Yeah.
Stop and do what? That used to be his question. Stop and do what? So it never crossed your mind to stop, even after they kicked your door in.
After they kicked the door in, I think that first time you get caught, I don't think it's I should stop. It's like, yo, I'm moving messy. You start to tell yourself, like, I'm moving messy. Like, I got to move smarter than I'm moving. So you really go back and evaluate the way you've been moving to see if you could do it better.
But now we know that drug dealers only have two outcomes. Because how many of us know really old drug dealers?
Yeah.
Right? But so in your mind, you thought messy.
Yeah.
So you said, I'm going to straighten up my game.
Yeah.
And then you move forward, have a baby at 19. You still out in the streets.
I'm still in the streets. But see, by the time I was 19, I was still in the streets. But now, this baby number 2 and my baby father number 2.
Okay, so this is a different daddy.
Yes.
Okay.
So baby number 2 and my baby father number 2, he was getting a lot of money. And in the beginning, he just was really like splurging on me, taking me shopping, buying me all kind of things and everything. And I let him know, like, I wanted money. And so he and we was like a duel. Like, you tired? All right, you go home. At the end of the night, how much money you made? How much money you made? We would count the money up.
The power couple.
Yep.
People in the streets knew that y'all were a power couple. Yeah, so they knew.
Yeah.
So then at that point, you became a mom of 2. You now have this power relationship. Again, getting all the money, all right? And then how many years later when you had baby number 3?
3. All my sons is 3 years apart.
Okay. And then you had baby number 3 with baby father number 3.
Yeah, but I want to say this.
Okay.
Because oftentimes as women, we get so caught up on receiving the material things. And even knowing that I was coming from abandonment, so having somebody there that's consistent, that's loving me, it's seeming like everything is okay. He was beating me up. Like, I don't even know if I want to say beat me up because we was fighting. I prefer to say we was fighting because we was fighting.
But isn't that, though, Keisha, a part of the urban life for young black girls in the streets? Most are getting beat.
It's a part of it, but it's still not cool.
It's not cool. It's not cool.
Yeah.
And it's the part that nobody's talking about. Now things are being caught on tape. We see what happened with Diddy and Cassie.
Yeah.
Right? And it's horrible. But that is the life that many lived.
When you're receiving them gifts, you taking that money.
You taking that
I'm
money.
I'm buying you stuff. I own you. I own you. Like, even one time, I remember my son's father saying, "Give me that hair I bought you. We on the block," and he snatched the whole ponytail off me. Like, but. You know, that's on a minor level. But you got women, he be like, give me that car. Get out and walk. Get out this house. I paid for it. You know, that is what comes with the territory. I own you. Either going to do right by me, do what I say, follow in the steps that I'm telling you to take, or you going to give me back what I got you because without me, you ain't got nothing.
And you continue to go back.
For that one, I don't know, Eb.
How long did you stay with him before you said, I'm out?
By the time I had my son, I wasn't with him. But see, that's because one day he was fighting me and the neighbors called the police. And when the police kicked the door in, he was like choking me. It was nothing I could do. Like, I couldn't. They was like, they was the ones showed up at the court. Like, yeah, we seen him. Like, he was choking her.
So, but you probably would have still been with him.
Yeah, I was taking care of him when he was in jail. This is the reality, though, of the, like you say, in the urban. And the thing is, we speaking, sometimes the way we even speaking of it right now is as if it's the past. This is not the
this
past.
is still going on.
This is still happening.
Still going on. Do you remember, I want to say right before the pandemic, it was a whole thing. I think Ayana even covered it with the young girl who won the lottery. And she spent her lottery findings on getting her drug dealer boyfriend out of prison. And he got out and went right back in. So basically she lost her lottery money, still trying to feed at a guy that really didn't have anything going on for himself. This is what what you saw on TV with Diddy and Cassie is not an anomaly.
Yeah.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
Happens a lot.
Happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Right this second.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to think about it, so after I had my son with him, I remember being in that apartment, 2 kids now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so still into that money. I was like, I'm going to get me a bigger and a better baller.
Mm-hmm.
These is my exact words. I still remember to this day.
Was it because you wanted to prove to him?
I don't think it's because I wanted to prove to him. I never wanted to feel like I was going backwards.
That's right. Okay. That's the same Keisha, though. It's the same Keisha today. It's just you've replaced that. So you said I'm going to get a bigger and better baller. Is that what baby number 3?
Oh, yeah, that was the one.
Okay. So he was really running the shit.
He was the one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we was supplying the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, he was the one. And he was the one to the point where I could step back. Like, I no longer need to go outside.
So you could be a stay-at-home mom at that point.
Yeah.
So you thought you were living a suburban lifestyle. And what happened?
That one was worse. Well, it was no physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the mental and the emotional abuse was insane. The manipulation was crazy. This man was having so much money. He was having so many women. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, but see, that on the other hand, it was hard for me to leave because I felt like I built him.
And you was like, I'm not going to build him for somebody else to come and take.
Because he wasn't from my city. Mm-hmm. So I taught him my city, the right people to connect with, everything. So I was like, you think I'm going to like put you on, teach you the right things, and then you're going to go and give it to somebody else? So that one took me a long time.
How many years were you with him?
2018, my viral engagement, that was the same man.
We're going to talk about that.
Took me 17. We was 17 years off and on.
17. And so there was a point, though, where he was incarcerated, though, right? And is that the reason that's prompted you to say, I'm leaving New York?
I left him in 2009.
Okay, 2009.
2009, I left him when I moved to Atlanta.
Was he still out or was he in prison?
He was out.
Okay.
But let me tell you something. When I came to move to Atlanta on that drive, it took me 25 hours to get here. I came with 3 kids. I had a U-Haul truck following me. It was so much going on, but the whole time I was driving, I never went to sleep. I never had nobody else drive. I was praying the whole time. I said, God, if you take me out of this city.
Were you running from something?
I used to tell people I was so exhausted of being on a hood red carpet. Mm-hmm. Like, they was talking about me at every nail shop, every club, every party, everywhere they was saying my name. I was exhausted.
But was somebody looking for Keisha?
Nope.
So you just one day said, I'm going to leave this life, because you were basically a hood celebrity at that point.
You know what I got smart enough to realize?
What?
He would do the same thing for me wherever I went.
So your goal was to move to Atlanta, but not to get out the life. Just find another place.
Find another place, but I knew he was going to still provide for me. Mm-hmm. Because, see, those men, they're territorial. Mm-hmm. Like I said, they feel like they own you. Just like I feel like I built him, he feel like he built me.
But why were you leaving him, though, at that point?
I was exhausted. I wanted something different.
Something different. So you moved to Atlanta with 3 babies by yourself.
Yep.
No plan, really?
No plan. I never even been here. I rented the house online.
So you just woke up. So your propheticness was in you then. So you woke up one day and said, I'm going to Atlanta.
I was working in a call center. And one day I was sitting there and I just said, I'm moving. I'm going to Atlanta. And I was on the work computer looking at houses. And I remember the girl saying to me, you living in a fairy tale. One of the workers. Still to this day, I remember who she is. You living in a fairy tale. I said, okay. He wouldn't give me the money to move, but I had a guy friend who gave me the money.
Why did you want to move, though?
I was exhausted.
Exhausted of just that rigmarole of life?
Yeah, the cheating, the women, like I was fighting.
You were tired of being in the lineup. The disrespect had gotten to a point. And that's the part, because when you say exhausted can mean a lot of things.
Okay.
But at that point, you were tired of the disrespect.
I was tired of being one of many, right? My demeanor, my character, who I am, is you're going to always respect me. Women are very disrespectful. So for me, not being who I am today, not saved, I was more like, if you don't want to respect me on your own, I will make you respect me. So I'm running around and put my hands on people. It's crazy. Like, my life is real. And I see myself going to prison. And not for drugs.
Yeah, for hurting somebody.
Yeah.
For hurting somebody. So you moved to Atlanta. Pain. Did you in the back of your mind hope and wish that he would follow you here and you guys have a fairy tale story?
No.
So you really wanted him to move on?
Yeah, I really wanted him to. I wanted him to drive them crazy and give me the money.
Give you the money. Okay. And so 2009, you're here. He's still sending you money. You still have, because I remember one of the things you told me is that you wanted to build a life where you didn't have to wait for him to decide if he wanted to send you something.
Yep. So as I'm driving here, though, the Lord shows me the FBI jackets. So it's like I have a prophetic encounter on the drive, and I see the FBI jackets. I start to tell him the feds is coming to get you.
At this point, he's probably thinking you just bitter.
Yeah. I was like, the feds is coming to get you. I'm telling you, I feel it. I've seen it. The feds is coming to get you. And then my mom called and said somebody told her that the feds was watching him. I was like, I told you the feds coming to get you. And they did. 4 months after I was here.
If you had stayed there, do you think you would have been picked up too?
No, I wasn't outside.
But do you have to be outside at that point?
I don't know. No, I wouldn't say. I would say, I don't know. I can't answer that. Like, God's grace. God is faithful. Like, he covered me. Whichever way, I don't know what would have happened. If I never even thought about
that. Because the reality is, had you stayed, you probably would have been picked up.
Yeah.
During that period of time, they were relentless, and they were going after girlfriends, wives, baby mamas, sisters, anybody that had any affiliation or knew anything. And that back then, you couldn't be a snitch. No. Today, people just openly snitching. Snitch. Snitches had stitches when I was growing up. All this, people proudly, you just didn't do that back then.
You didn't do that back then, but I think now people be like, I ain't going to jail for somebody else.
For 20, 30, 40 years, right?
For a stranger.
Right.
Would they do it for me? That's what they be saying to them.
But you know what? Back in the day, people did do it for them.
Yeah, they did.
It was people who served 20, 30, 40. Because the reality is they knew that one of the things is they wouldn't last on the street, and they are not going to last in either.
I found out at my dad's funeral that the last time my dad went to jail, he went to jail for somebody else.
Because he still had that OG mentality.
Oh, my dad was an OG.
Yeah.
That's how I knew when I knew my dad was tired. Like, I could see in his face he was disgusted with his life. Like, as he was getting sick, I was the man. So I found out that the last bid my dad did, he did for somebody else, one of his cousins. So, like you said, and he was in jail for 8 years. Like, you just take that time.
Just take it. So now you're in Atlanta. You find out he's locked up. And you have to figure out, because your money source now is cut off.
Yeah.
Right? You always were an entrepreneur, so that's when you started selling hair? Okay, so you started selling hair, and then let's fast forward to 2011. Right? Is that the year?
2013.
2013. When your life changed forever.
But around 2011 was where I really got consistent about Christ.
Okay.
So 2009, I came, I partied the whole time. Party. I was going out. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. 2011, I kind of got locked in and started going to church. Because remember, I made that promise on the drive. If you get me out of here, I will never go back. Like, I'll put you first. All of that. I never forgot what I told God. So 2011, started building my relationship with God. I'm going to church consistently. I'm taking my kids. We got a church home. But I would go out on Saturday nights and leave at 12 and go to church on Sunday. So I still had like one leg in, one leg out.
Lukewarm.
Yeah. And 2013, my son playing football for the church. It's a Thursday. August the 23rd, 2013. If you look that up, that's a Friday. But it was Friday morning. 2-something a.m. I was coming from the club. So my son is on the football field at the church that night. I remember saying, boy, hurry up, come on. I got somewhere to go tonight. Get in the car, go home, cook the food, get dressed, go out. I never came back home.
You were in a head-on accident.
Yeah.
Right? That immediately severed both legs.
Yeah.
And at that point, you weren't even the driver.
No, I was a driver. Let me tell the story.
Tell it, yeah.
A lot of people, they don't really know, like, the entire story.
Okay.
So we driving from the club, right? I'm the driver. It's my car. Okay. My cousin is in the back seat, and I have a passenger. You know my passenger grabbed the wheel. So my passenger grabbed the wheel. She thought I was going to hit the car in front of us. My passenger grabbed the wheel. We went all the way across 4 lanes, and the guardrail came through and cut my legs off.
And you immediately knew that your legs were severed?
Yeah, so you see this left one is above the knee. This was cut just like this that night in the car. All they did was tuck it some and sew it. This was just like this because when I went to call my cousin's name and I went to turn around, this leg flew up on the steering wheel. It was already cut off. Ooh.
And did they think that they could save that leg?
No, I don't think that was considered. Like, this leg was pent, like, to the middle because the guardrail came through. So this leg was pent. So what they actually did was cut this leg off on the highway, like, to get the guardrail out and everything. They cut the guardrail. I remember it burning. Like, still even on the bottom of this, you could see the burn mark. So I remember saying, oh, it's burning. So this whole time I'm woke, though.
So you're experiencing this pain.
There's no pain.
No pain.
They say your body going to such a shock that there's no pain. So there's no pain. But I'm like, oh, my leg is cut off. I'm panicking. There's this guy, I don't know if you see, I made a post about him a couple weeks ago. There was this guy, he came, he had this checker shirt on. He said, the police and the ambulance is on the way. You're going to be okay. He started praying. He started speaking in tongues and everything. To this day, never seen this man. No police reports, nobody know nothing of him. He just was like an angel. He blocked the highway with his 18-wheeler.
And so you then were rushed to the hospital. And in the hospital, you didn't have a chance to mourn or to grieve.
No. But I don't like to skip past the part of me getting in the ambulance. So I'm blacked out now.
Okay.
But I could feel them pick me up. I could feel the firemen pick me up. And I'm so light. But I'm blacked out. But I could feel my weight. That both the legs is gone. Because I didn't know they cut this leg off. I just know that it was burning so bad. That's what blacked me out. But in the ambulance, I heard them say, take her to Grady. I only heard 2 things in this ambulance. I never seen the inside of the EMT or anything. Take her to Grady. That was God saying, you on your way. Then I heard him say, get off at this exit. You made it. From there on, I never woke up for 3 days.
And when you woke up and you realized this was not a nightmare, this was not a dream, did you immediately look for your legs?
So they had me on like this short bed. At least in my mind, that's what it seemed like. Because I ain't never seen that before. But it felt like they had me on this short bed. And so when I opened my eyes, my dad was there. My cousin Tashika was sitting over to the side. And I remember opening my eyes. Everybody was crying and crying and crying. And they gave me like this board, like the right arm, because I still had the tubes and everything down. And I looked down and I could see that like the legs wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me in that moment, I don't know, I just was like, it's about to be different. I didn't know what was going to happen. I ain't even about to make up nothing to you. Like, something like that happened, you don't know what's next. I didn't know what was next for me. Like, because in that moment, I'm realizing I don't have the legs, but I'm still not mentally in a place to see if, am I still in my right mind? Like, is everything else, like, okay? Am I capable? Like,
is this a dream? Is this real? I remember you showing online you actually being in the hospital and packing hair packages to ship out to clients.
Yeah.
So you were still running your business in the hospital after having your leg severed.
Yeah, because I remember when I woke up, so eventually they bring me from the ICU upstairs. I told them, bring my laptop. Because that Friday I was supposed to pay my light bill. I said I was supposed to pay my light bill. My kid's about to be in the dark. My cousin looked at me like, is this girl crazy? And so, you know, they got a post office downstairs in Grady. I was packing the packages on my lap and rolling downstairs and shipping them out. Because why? All I know is abandonment. Y'all just here for a minute.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned one time that your mom made a comment that made you feel as if you would be a burden.
Yeah.
And you said, oh no, I'm not going to be a burden to anybody.
I could tell the look on all their face was,
Who's
to
gonna
me,
take care of her?
Yeah. Like, they was sad, but I could see them looking like, who about to do this? That's what I felt in my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who about to do this? I only had one person that ever told me the truth and was like, yeah, I definitely thought you was going to a nursing home. And I didn't know who was about to take care of your kids.
Did it cross your mind to go to a nursing home?
No.
Because to your point, who's going to take care of the kids? So what would have happened to your boys?
Right.
Right.
No.
So, let's talk a little bit about that encounter where you had a word from God that talked about, why do you need legs? Tell that story.
So during the time when I was, the 3 days, they say I was on the respirator, I say I was with the Lord. I seen the outside of heaven and everything. And God told me he was going to send me back. And that the legs that I had wasn't strong enough to walk into the territory that he had for me. So when you hear that, the legs that you had was not strong enough to walk into the territory that I have for you. Basically what I felt I was standing on was standing in my way. Because there was places that he had for me to go, territory, for me to walk into, that those legs wasn't strong enough to go into.
And wouldn't take you into, because some of the doors that you've opened, places that you've been, have been because of your testimony.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a large part of who Keisha Green is.
I didn't know who I was before this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are amazed when I say that. Like, God will take something that looks like a tragedy to someone else, and literally if you triumph through it, and it'll teach you who you are. Like, if this hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I would be today.
But how long did it take you, Keisha, for you to look at your anniversary as a celebration?
I started celebrating it immediately.
Really?
One of the things is God really kept my mind. And so I remember him saying to me, if you got your right mind, you got the ability to do everything. So I never been to therapy or nothing. Like, you know, people like, oh, was you losing it? Like, did you have to find yourself again? I never had any of that. So my mind was strong. Once I realized I still had my right mind, it was just all about figuring out how I was going to make this work. And everything even happened so fast. Me coming out of the hospital, when I came out of the hospital, I remember I came out of the hospital September the 13th. So I was only in the hospital 3.5 weeks. They said I was going to be there 8 months. But the doctor said most people, and when he said most people are in the hospital a year and they walk in 18 months. I let him say everything he was going to say. And as he began to walk out, I said, you said most people, right? All right, that ain't me.
And he said walk in a year and a half. So the goal was for you to have prosthetic legs, right? They did provide you with prosthetic legs, and I know you did some videos with those back in the day on Instagram, but you decided not to wear them.
I walked in 8 months. It was for me. And please hear me. Those of you that are fully able, and those are you that are considered to have an inability as myself, right? Prosthetics just wasn't for me. It made me feel very robotic. I'm a realist. Like, let me be me.
I heard it hurt too.
Yeah, they do. So most people who use prosthetics, they take medication. Like, pain pill addiction was in my family. I was coming home giving away the pills as soon as I got out of the hospital. I didn't even know what they were. They was like, and how I go from being in the streets to just giving the pills away, I done forgot everything I know. Like, I just knew I didn't want to be addicted to pills, though, and I wanted to be in my right mind.
So let me ask you this. So you came home, and we're going to go back a little bit, but you came home, and you were still on and off with daddy number 3,
Yep.
right? How did he respond when you told him you lost your legs?
He in jail.
He's in jail, and then you told him about the accident?
Other people was already telling them because, like, my whole town was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they was dragging me, though.
They was like, that's it for her.
Oh, yeah, what's she going to be now? Now let's see how she going to run her business. They was, like, cursing me.
Mm-hmm. And see, with people like us, when you do that, you burn in the fire a little bit more, right?
They still turning over. They mad still right now.
Still
I
mad.
can't believe it.
Still mad. But they told him about your legs, and he still said, I still want to be with Keisha.
Yeah, I think he didn't really want to be with me. I think he felt that he should be with me.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna sit with me? We done ran the streets. We done ran together.
Loyalty.
Yeah.
It was loyalty.
Yeah.
So he gets out. You guys get back together. And did you feel at this point, I want to get back with him because you said, listen, I lost my legs. This is the guy that I've been with before. He's wanting to still be with me. And you felt like, okay, I'm just going to go back with him because he's what I know.
It was comfortable, was what I knew.
Is what you knew.
But my mom had also told me that any man that look at me like he might not really love me.
Insecurity at that point,
Yeah.
right? So in your mind, you're thinking, I better jump on this.
Yeah, it felt safe. Like, he was the only person I was, like, talking to on the phone all the time. And he felt like he was my friend.
And your mom told you that no other man would want you.
She just was like, you're going to have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, when a man look at you, like, he going to see money. And I was like, but in my mind, I felt like he can't see money because he don't know what happened to me. Only you know what happened to me. So when you look at me,
you see money. So you're saying this is projection of what she saw.
Yeah, that's most of the time what happened. People will project their own thoughts and feelings upon you and try to force it like it's your thoughts or someone else's. So me, I always listen to what people don't say. Mm-hmm. People say a lot, but you have to listen to what people are not saying.
I always say that. I am big on reading the room, and the silence and body language tells me more than what people actually say.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm glad you said it because you and I are in agreement with that. So you and him though go on and you have a very public. 'Cause one thing about you, Keisha, you are an open book. You share your life freely on social media.
Yeah, I do.
Did you had a very public engagement?
Yeah.
And a very public breakup.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. So did you feel the need to go public with this engagement with your ex? Did you feel like you had something to prove to the world?
So the engagement just like went viral.
Right.
It went crazy. And
but who had the camera up to record the engagement?
It was a photo shoot.
Okay.
It was a photo shoot. We was doing some videos. I didn't know he was going to ask me. I've not watched the video. I think it's online somewhere, though. Mm-hmm. But if you were to go and watch it, you will see when he does it that my body says no. My mouth said yes. At that time, he already had a baby on the way.
by someone else.
Yep.
And the reason why you guys broke, and you didn't know about that though, the baby on the way.
I did.
Oh, you knew.
This is my first time telling people that.
Okay, so you did know about the baby being on the way.
I had found out. My cousin told me.
Okay, so you decided to still go ahead with the engagement because you felt like I was chosen. He chose me.
He was choosing me in that moment.
Why do you think he chose you? Do you think he was doing what your mom said? Do you think he thought, if I choose Keisha, I could live a life that I can't live with someone else?
I'm going to say this, and I'm going to try to keep it, like, clean, right? I'm going to say this. That if he was to be with me, he had a bill he ain't had to pay. And my street people got to read between the lines. So if he was to be with me, he had a bill he ain't have to pay. They was like, yo, if that's what you're going to do, we respect it.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wasn't with me, he need to pay that bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he was thinking about that bill.
Mm-hmm.
And not having to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we going to be good anyway. She got a couple dollars, like, I could figure out something.
And he probably felt like, hey, I can have my world and have something on the side. Mm-hmm. And that side world caught up with him, right?
Yeah, and remember, though, I have forgiven him for so many things. He probably thought this just going to be another
one. Right.
Yeah, but I wasn't the same person. He didn't know me.
So this time you get a call, right? And she tells you that she was with your fiance.
Oh, listen, no, that's not how it went.
How did it go?
So, per his parole, he had to be where we from. So I had a condo up there where we was staying. And I was up there, and we went to go get something to eat, and I'm on Instagram, and I get a DM. I open the DM up, it's pictures. Like, literally, in the act pictures. And we in the car together. So I'm like, yo, what is this? From then on, I don't think he recognized that I had stood for things that I wasn't willing to sit for.
Mm-hmm.
I was out. I didn't want to be with him. So I believe the engagement was even like him saying like, no, please. And he probably knew that's something I always wanted from him over these years. Let me give her something I never gave her before.
Mm-hmm.
At least if it's not going to be so, at least let me buy me some time to find my way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's still just brand new home. Still finding his way. So I would say it definitely, looking back on it, I'm a realist. Like, nah, it wasn't
So
real.
you were able to walk away from the relationship faster without your legs than you were when you had your legs.
Yeah, but I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna lie to you, I was sick. Like, I was crying. I was so hurt. I was so disappointed. I felt abandoned again.
Abandoned.
Yeah.
So let's move beyond some of this because there's so much more to Keisha. So the abandonment came back, the disappointment, all those things. 3 baby daddies at this point. 3 different babies and 3 different baby daddies.
3 different babies, 3 different baby daddies.
And I remember I met you years ago. You called me for a consultation. This is way before we actually did work together. But I remember you kept telling me, because I had another client at the time, God rest his soul, Curtis Lovejoy. I think you met him at Fox. And you called and you was like, right now I don't have the money for the retainer, but I'm going to be calling you back. And you said, because I'm about to be a big deal. I remember you said that. And I hear people say that all the time. I'm like, okay. And years later, you actually did call me back. And at that point, Keisha was a big deal. What you said, you put into fruition. It actually came to pass. Yeah. But let's fast forward. So, because throughout that time, Keisha became a phenomenon, right? You ended up on Steve Harvey. You received all type of awards. Yeah. You were featured in all magazines. You were on cover of magazines. You ended up, working with our agency and being seen as a premier client all over the place. You are now under Dr. Cindy Trim. There's a lot of fanfare around Keisha. Yeah. Keisha. But at some point, you said, I am missing something.
Yeah.
And I remember you shared that in your family, you are the only person to be married.
Woman.
Only woman to be
As
married.
my grandmother's grandkids, yeah.
So was there, I remember you and I met, so I already know the answer. I was about to ask you, was there a desire to be married? And it was, because I remember when I met you, you wanted to be married and you wanted a daughter.
Yeah.
That was your goal.
When we filmed my podcast together, I think I said, I'll be married soon. Like, God is going to send me a husband. I already knew prophetically that I was going to meet my husband in October and that he was going to want to marry me in 3 months. The Lord had already shown that to me. And so when it came forth, I still was scared, though. Because even though sometimes you may have the vision, you may know what you want to be, you may know what your dream is, that even when it comes, you may still have a fear of it. Like, wow, it's really happening for me. But you have to trust that you deserve it, you've worked for it, and that you should have this. So, me, I had money. I'm a great mom. I'm a great daughter. I'm a great sister. I'm a great friend. I wanted to be a wife. I felt
you had the cars, you had the bags, you had traveled everywhere. The only thing you had kids. The only thing you didn't have was the husband.
Yeah.
Right. So when you went to Ghana on a mission trip, did you know him already?
No.
So you met him on the trip.
Yeah. So the thing is, he was the founder of the foundation where I was doing the mission.
Okay.
And I didn't know. So that's how I ended up meeting him.
Okay. So, and was it love at first sight or? No. Okay. It wasn't. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Because I just remember, I think you took up a offering and you were going to Ghana to do some work. And then I know it seemed like within a couple of weeks, you posted a video, and I didn't, at that point, you were constantly online. You were so I didn't know if it was a skit or what. I can't, woman, did Keisha just get engaged? I was trying to understand what it was. So you immediately said yes? Okay. Now, I
immediately said yes.
To the proposal.
Let's rephrase that, though.
Okay.
I immediately accepted the prophecy.
Okay.
I would like to look at it that way because I had to trust what God has shown me it was coming forth.
Okay.
And so I was like, this is what the Lord had already told me. But, we even skip past some things because even as your client, think about 5 years ago, I kept telling you God has work for me to do in Africa.
You did. Because we even had a couple of opportunities for you to do some. You did. You continued to say that.
And so I knew God had a calling on me to go to Africa. And people would say, where? And I would say, he will let me know when the time comes.
I do remember that. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that back to my memory because that is true. And so you say yes. And I noticed that some of the comments that you would go back and forth, you evidently got a lot of inboxes from folks that were speaking negatively about your engagement. How did you feel about that?
People believe after you achieve, and people will always speak negative. It wasn't so much negative of him, but I'll always get negativity from people because they feel like, why her? They feel like because they see me as missing legs, like how she get a husband and I can't. So again, it's projection. Her, not me? How? That's what people would say. Like, people was commenting like, and here I am standing here and can't get a man. So it's more so of people dealing with themselves and trying to figure out what about me is better than them. A lot.
Yeah, and I know that's painful, right? So the people who inbox you, did anybody inbox these things to you directly? Were you able to have any direct communication with some of these folks?
Well, the thing is, I'll read sometime, and then you know how you could read a message and you could act like you never read it? I was doing that. At first, I was reading them. Then I realized it was so toxic.
Were you expecting the negativity?
Yeah, I was. Because I got negative comments even with the first proposal. But this one to an African man, oh my gosh, you know what they were saying? Oh, he about to get a visa. He about to use you. He about to do this. He about to do that. But the thing was that I knew things about my husband that other people didn't know. And he didn't need a visa. He already had one. But I wasn't willing to say that because I wanted to just let people make themselves look crazy. And I would be blocking them. And my husband kept saying, why is you blocking them? You got to let them see. You need to let them see. And I was like, no, I just don't feel like doing that.
I know you mentioned something before we started filming, and you said being married to you rephrased what you said. What did you say about being married to an African man?
I said, if you're going to marry an African man, you got to know how to fight a witch.
Okay, let's talk about that, because I've been married to an African man for 25, almost in September will be 26 years.
Wow.
So why do you say that, and what does that mean?
Well, it means that their territory is different.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is the first in his family to travel. They call him a booger. When you go first, they call you a booger. That means you're the one in the family that get to go outside. So in Africa, there's a lot of family jealousy. They will curse you. Like, you gotta know how to fight a witch. I even think about when my in-laws was courting me for my husband, like questioning me. They never asked me how many kids I had. They never asked me where I work. They never asked me how many baby fathers, have I been to university or anything like that.
You know, that's odd, because Africans are very particular about each one of those items you just mentioned.
And he's the only son.
So they never asked you that.
No, you want to know what my father-in-law asked me?
What?
Are you saved? Do you got the Holy Ghost? Do you know how to pray? And do you speak in tongues?
Mm-hmm.
He want to know, not what you're doing on this earth. Do you know how to fight a spiritual battle?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need to know. Is, do you really know how to war? That's what he asked me.
Mm-hmm.
That was all he cared about, was my relationship with God.
Mm.
He's a pastor.
Amazing, amazing. So you immediately felt the warfare.
It was a few months in, so I would say I had traveled back. Now I'm like on my third trip back, because I kept coming back to the States, going back and forth. My third trip back. Oh man, should I say this?
Mm-hmm.
So it was maybe like a month before my wedding, and one of my in-laws cursed my purse.
What exactly does that mean?
It was like, it's like, when I say she cursed my purse, it was like I watched her like wrap her arms around my purse and like say stuff.
So she was trying to dry up your wealth.
Yeah. I believe she wanted an exchanging of the wealth, or a release.
Mm. And you saw her do this.
Mm-hmm.
Did you call her out on it?
No, you don't do that.
Mm.
You don't do that. But immediately when we left.
Why don't you do that? Why don't you call a witch out when you see it?
You got to know how to fight a spiritual battle, though.
Okay.
And so the way I move, I'm not going to just call a witch out in a foreign place in a different region.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny, though, Keisha, is that many people don't really understand or believe in witchcraft. I mean, now you have witches that are now more open.
Mm-hmm.
They are self-proclaimed.
To me, witches in the States is babies.
Correct. Because in Africa, this is I remember being in Nigeria and reading headlines in Nigeria about a woman who was a witch, and she got, because at night, what happens with witches in Nigeria, they turn into cats during the day. Monitoring spirits. And then they turn back into the human being during the day. So at night, and one got caught in between because she didn't change before sunlight, and it made the front page, and people didn't believe me here.
But it was normal news for them.
It was normal. Witchcraft is normal. The things that people don't talk about, what happens in that space that actually happens in those countries.
So you got to be spiritually strong. Mm-hmm. So even with my marriage, I'm called to that realm for my husband.
Okay.
God brought me to break some things for him that was holding him back.
Mm-hmm.
So here we would say the favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says, he who findeth a wife obtaineth a good thing, and he obtaineth favor from the Lord. The Lord used me to break things off of my husband that was holding him back. but they recognized who I was. I could tell by the way they looked at me. So just like I was able to recognize who they were able to recognize who I was.
So when you arrived, they knew this is your wife.
They knew that's the prophet. They knew that was the prophet. So I didn't meet the witches till a little later. I didn't meet them till about a month before the wedding. But I had already been spending a lot of time with my in-laws. Very grounded, very integral people, good people. Like I said, my father-in-law is a pastor, mother-in-law a first lady. My sister-in-law, they're all like genuine people, never ask me for things or any of that. But these people, they were like, buy us dresses for the wedding. Like demanding things from me.
They must not have known who they were talking to.
And then I found out that, you know, they had been receiving things, though. They had been receiving things not from me, but they had been receiving things, so they felt like I was the one that was getting ready to stop that. And I did, because I'm never paying a witch. Never, ever am I paying a witch. Listen, I will fight you in the spirit. I'm not paying you to have peace with you.
And so your mission now as a prophetess is what? What is your mission?
My mission now is to build my legacy. I believe in the multiplication and the magnification, the magnifying and the multiplication of the dollar when you take it back home. So now I'm building my family's legacy in Ghana, right? But also changing the bloodline for my husband's family as well. And so they get so excited, like the people in the village, they talk about them. Because now we take care of 85 children in the village. We've adopted 85 children. We pay school fees. We buy uniforms. We help single moms, you know, building wells and different things like that. And so they're pleased with just their family name being said, even if they're not receiving monetary things. Because I don't have to pay my in-laws. Like, nah, we don't do that.
So you're going back in a couple of weeks, right? I know you're excited.
I'm really excited.
You seem so happy when you're in Ghana. Your smile is so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you consider that home?
For me, I love it. It feels more like home to me, but it can't be home because my kid's not there. So I have like responsibilities still here that I have to, but my goal is to be fully living in Ghana in the next 2 to 3 years.
So what is your legacy? What do you want people, because you've lived, we couldn't even go through all of the details of your life because of the amount of time of the show. So that's why you may have seen me skip through things to make sure we got to certain areas. But when you think about the life of Keisha, you've lived 4 different lives.
Yeah.
And each life really could be its own episode. What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy will be the Ghana Gives Foundation. Right now I'm in a 5-year plan rollout that will consist of affordable housing communities, hostels, which is more of like dorm universities, developments. I'm talking about subdivisions like never before, but of accessible housing communities, bringing accessibility, doing a little bit of diversity and equality as well over in the country of Ghana, and introducing them to things that allows the country to be a little bit more accessible. The infrastructure there is not always friendly for the disability community, although they do have an ADA Act. So I see myself going into more of the political realm in Ghana, having a few legislations passed that I know will change things for the disabled community, but that's more so what it looks like at this time.
Wow. When I just think back to the Keisha that I met that called me, not when we became, when you became a client, but the Keisha that called me after meeting Curtis Lovejoy at Fox. Most recent, you had just lost your legs at that point, and you said to me, I can't afford this retainer right now, but I'm going to be a big deal. And looking at you sitting across right now, not just talking about real estate, not just talking about international real estate, but you're talking about changing the bloodline of your family from a perspective that can change the way your family looks forever.
Yeah.
You spoke that into existence, and you're living it out right now.
Yeah.
Everything that you said, even the work that you're going to do in Africa, all those things have come to pass. I am so excited about what's next for you. And I'm even more excited about the fact that you are now living your life offline. You know, I always would tell you that. I think it's important to really live your life.
Yeah.
And not photograph every moment. It's important to have some memories, but while you're taking the picture, you're losing focus of what's really happening in that moment. To see you actually happy. And I will say this, remember that marriage is going to have its ebbs and flows. And I think one of the most important things that I've heard you say, at least through your posts, is that you realize that your marriage is a ministry and you're on a mission from God. Yeah. And as long as you're able to keep before you what that mission is, you guys will be able to work through the ebbs and flows. Yeah. Most marriages, even the deepest over-the-top in-love marriages, can't survive because they don't understand the mission. Yeah. If you don't have that mission in front of you, it's very easy to fall.
Well, you know, I thank you for that. But I thank you, too, for being an example of what it looks like to live in reality. You know, with me marrying my husband and me have been a client of yours and then connected to you for a while, of course, I've thought about, you know, that you're married to an African man as well. You know, a long time, a solid, a grounded marriage, a great example to know that cultural differences can work. Mm-hmm. So no, I thank you for that example, and I don't see you carry out your personal life online. Mm-mm. And still have a joy and still have a happiness and still have things that are successful, right? So that's where I am in this season, is living in my real reality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many times you can be posting, like you said, and losing that connection, losing that moment. And I even sometimes feel like when I met my husband, he was never the person. And sometimes he'd say, make a video of me. I said, what? But then I think about, like, he got that from me. Mm-hmm. And now I don't do it. Mm-hmm. I like to be in my reality, be in the moment. And I just feel like everything is not to be shared.
That's right. That's
right. And some things you need to show people what you've done instead of telling them what you're going to do.
Validation. You don't need, you get to a point where the validation is no longer needed.
That's where I am.
And that's where you are. I'm so excited. I know that this episode is definitely going to have a lot of questions and a lot of interest. I'm very proud of you, Keisha, and I know you're just getting started. And I want to thank you for coming into the studio today, and thank you guys for another episode of Coinology. See you next time. Welcome to Coinology, the podcast.
You ain't getting no money if you constantly worried about what everybody else got to say. If you constantly got your eyes on what everybody else doing, you ain't getting no money. When it comes down to closing a deal, I get it done. Every single one. I'm just going to find you a closer.
Welcome to Coinology, the podcast.